Hey buddy, welcome back! In the previous video, you learned about what kind of game Archives of Tomorrow is and what you'll need to play it. In this video, I'm going to teach you the key concepts of determining line of sight between you and your enemies, and how to move your models across the battlefield. Come on, let's check it out. Let's start with defining the basic building block of your army. In a game of AOT, each commander will field their own force of miniature models. These models are the physical representations of your soldiers on the battlefield, and each one stands on a single base which stabilizes it as you move it around. In AOT, the base is also used to determine line of sight and the movement of the model. Line of sight represents a model's vision and is important because it is necessary when selecting targets for ranged attacks and spells. To clarify, enemy models in line of sight can be seen and targeted. Enemies not in line of sight cannot be seen or targeted. Line of sight is figuratively drawn as a straight line from any part of a model's base to any part of another model's base. Line of sight can be blocked by certain terrain and even other models. These situations will be covered in future tutorial videos, so this would be a great time for you to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for new videos when they're released. Now that we've covered vision, let's go over movement. In Archives of Tomorrow, a model's base is the anchor for determining its movement. Whenever moving a model, start the movement from a single point on the model's base and measure the distance to move using that same point at the model's ending location. It's important to use a single point of reference on the base to avoid moving it further than intended or not far enough. For example, if you measure the start of the movement from the front of a model's base and then mark its ending location at the back of the base, you will have gained the base's diameter in unfair movement. Another note is that models cannot move over the bases of other models, either friend or foe. That means you must measure and move your models so that they path around the bases of other models. Movement is important in the game for positioning your forces on the battlefield to score victory points and gain line of sight to attack your enemies. So getting it right can mean the difference between victory or defeat. How do I know how far I can move a model? Well, there are different types of movement in AOT, but you will most commonly be using a basic move. On the top row of your model's spec card, you will see its speed spec. Speed represents the number of inches a model can move for its basic move. The other types of movement will be covered in future tutorial videos for you to look forward to. So far, we've looked at these key concepts from the perspective of individual models. Now, we can introduce the concept of a unit. Some models do fight and operate solo, such as sneaky assassins or monstrous abominations, but others fight in units composed of multiple models who move, act, and react together. It's important to note that even in a unit of multiple models, line of sight is still determined for each individual model. For example, when targeting enemies for ranged attacks, if 3 out of the 5 models in your unit have line of sight to the enemy, you would only be able to make attacks from those 3 models, not the entire unit of 5. When you're on the receiving end of ranged attacks, any enemy models that have line of sight to at least one of your models in the unit can make attacks against your unit. Likewise, movement is done on a model-by-model basis. Each model within a unit is moved by measuring from its base, as we've already covered. The only additional consideration when moving a unit of models is that they must remain in unit coherency throughout the course of the battle. For a unit of 5 or fewer models, each model must remain within 1 inch horizontally and 5 inches vertically of at least one other model in the unit to remain coherent. For a unit of 6 or more models, each model must remain within 1 inch horizontally and 5 inches vertically of at least 2 other models in the unit to remain coherent. This rule prevents a unit with lots of models from stretching out across the battlefield in a long line. Thank you so much for your time. My goal is to teach you all there is to know about this game so you can confidently go out and play it with your friends. I'm still new to this YouTube thing, so if you have any feedback on how to make these videos better, I'd love to see it in the comments. To become a part of the growing Archives of Tomorrow community, you can join the official Discord channel, which is linked below in the description. You can also support the game's continued development by subscribing to the Patreon, which will earn you a free digital copy of all future lore books, as well as a shout out on future videos. On that note, a huge thank you to the first harbingers of AOT. Your continued support means the world to me. That's it for now. See you next time, Commander.